Like, what? Hi, this is Dr. Julie Gilbert, and we're just laughing about my crazy hair. Hi, Rachel.
We weren't laughing. I was saying I loved it curly. It's very cute.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi out there, and welcome to another rendition and session Monday stream living live about food rules.
Food rules.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the book
And
we are
Rachel,
talking about.
we were talking about how this is going to be a little bit of a tricky chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a tricky chapter. It can be so trigger alert, right?
Yeah.
It could be a triggering chapter that we're going to review. It can be the idea can take your mind a million different directions.
Right.
So, my advice would be take a deep breath.
Deep breath.
And listen. And come with an open mind to what we're about to say.
Right. Yeah, because this is a very safe place, and there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
In these two little words.
Very much to unpack. And this is not as simple of a statement as it appears.
That's exactly right. And we're going to have more conversations. We're just starting the conversation. So let's be patient with this process of unpacking these two little words.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Are we ready?
What are they?
Chapter 45, eat less.
Yeah, eat less.
Wow. Eat less. We're talking about what are the food rules. We've been going through the ways to eat and how to eat and how much to eat and what to eat. And in this chapter, he says, eat less.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that can be, now you mentioned the word triggering. I think that can be triggering for some people because some people have eaten less and it hasn't always come out for the good or what they brought them to a place where they wanted to be.
Right. Great point. Many people who are listening are saying, I have restricted calories. Mm-hmm. Perhaps I've had an eating disorder, or perhaps I just really restricted. I was eating 800 calories, maybe 1,000 calories, but less than 1,200 or not enough to sustain. Right. Mm-hmm. And I restricted, and I didn't lose weight.
Mm-hmm. Right. And or I lost. Yeah. Or I lost and then I regained. Yeah. Or I did not have a healthy relationship with food when I was doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. And so I think there's a difference, Rachel, between eating what he's talking about when he says eat less. There's a difference between that and overly restricting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did not say restrict calories. He did not say follow a restrictive eating pattern.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's dive into what he's actually saying, because he says the science there, and you can look into research about this. The science does confirm that overall, when we as humans eat fewer calories, now we're not giving a number, right? We're just saying when we consume fewer calories.
Yeah, it could be go from here to here. Yeah.
Right.
Not going from here to here.
No.
From here to here. Yeah.
Yeah. Fewer calories.
Right.
We live longer, overall healthier. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, gosh, the science is kind of thick on this, but he's saying it slows aging. So one of the aging processes is one of the ways to slow the aging process is to cut back on calories. And I think what maybe the premise he's ultimately coming from is that in general, let's just talk about America. Americans are overeating. They're eating in abundance of calories, not just an extra couple grapes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to this before. They're eating an overabundance of ultra processed calories.
Right. Which not only are high calorie, but they're empty and they leave us wanting more. And then we're just eating more and more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. We're eating an overabundance of non-nutrient dense, maybe even toxic.
Yeah.
And yes. And then calories that get us hooked and they just draw us away. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When I started my my journey to health 17 years ago. I started exercising. That was the easiest first step for me. I did this just kind of like, okay, I want to just start getting healthier.
Yeah.
I started to exercise and I wasn't ready to kind of really address my food yet. I kind of was confused. I thought I ate pretty healthy. What do I do? You know, I didn't want to do a diet, right? So I started exercising and that felt great. I liked the movement. And then as I got ready to address my food, I kind of just started to look at what I was eating. And a couple things I realized. Number one, my husband did a lot of the cooking at that time and he would serve up our plates and he would put on my plate the same portion he put on his plate, not even thinking about it. And I also wasn't thinking about it, wasn't mindful. And so I would eat the same portion as a man who weighed a lot more than me, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm eating and I'm looking, I remember that was my first thought, like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be eating as much as
yeah, right.
Yes. And so that was the first thing I noticed and started to either serve my own plates or ask him to, cut that. And then I got to thinking, where else am I overeating? Because my portion is just kind of out of whack. And I just started to, the first things I did to try to help understand is, what if I just kind of cut everything in half? So rather than a whole sandwich at lunch, I ate a half a sandwich. Rather than the giant portion of grapes I would eat, I counted out and ate half of those, or when I ate spaghetti, I wasn't changing what I was eating yet. I didn't have any, but I just started to recognize that I was eating a lot of just extra food and I could be satisfied with much less, especially if I slowed down,
right,
paid attention, and I could get the nutrients. And then I started to add, well, I'm going to cut my sandwich in half, but I'm going to add more greens over here. Right. More of this, less of that.
Yeah.
And I started to be aware.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think when we eat less ultra processed food, that leaves room for more nutrient dense food. So it doesn't have to come in from this scarcity, I can't eat anything mindset, but an abundance mindset of more of the good stuff. Absolutely. Now, I want to point out too that physiologically, we know this because we measure it. And when people carry extra weight, or for example, they have insulin resistance or diabetes, actually their hunger and satiety hormones are out of balance. And they tend to have more hunger hormones, therefore more hunger, and less satiety hormones, therefore less of the feeling of fullness. So there is some physiology between eating, eating more or not being in tune, to their hunger. Because I have I talk a lot to people and they say, I don't know when I'm hungry. And sometimes when what you said, just try something different, like, okay, what would it feel like if I ate 3/4 of my sandwich rather than and slow down and tune in, listen up a little bit more, then we can kind of, I can be satisfied with this amount. Yeah.
I recently had a coaching client say that exact thing to me. She said, as I've started to become more mindful and aware, she's like, I realize the human body can get by on so much less food. So not restricted, right? Not dieting, but just not eating as frequently, right? So she cut out snacking and she focused on 3 solid meals rather than all the little snacks. And we get to this feeling like we think, oh gosh, it's been 2 hours since I've eaten. I must need a snack. I need to eat something.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah. And
then when you don't and you get by and you realize, oh, it's been 5 hours since I've eaten and I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of funny to say that. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic, because really hunger is not an emergency. And food is not a sport. Right. So to shift the mindset that I can go several hours without eating and then get ready for my next meal and eat a full meal. And so one of the ahas for her was like, she was just so surprised at how much she thinks she needed to be eating, and throughout the whole day, eating, right? And when she just slowed that down and kind of focused on nice, solid meals, it surprised her that she felt great and healthy and sleeping better,
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Because you're right. I mean, we have this subconscious kind of cultural messaging, that we need to be eating all the time, on our breaks or, before exercise, after exercise, all the snacks and all the things that catch our eye in the aisle as we're going through the grocery store, that are, our snack food, so, and it might be true that some people may have physiologic hunger pains, or the stomach feels between meals. That can be true. And it can be okay to eat a snack between a meal if it's, when it's real and whole food. But it's also okay to pay attention and see if that hunger passes.
Right.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not an emergency.
Right. Right. And, there's I think that you pointed to this, there's a cultural underlying sort of subliminal or subconscious message we've all received in this country for many years. Where do you think that message came from, that we need to be snacking every couple of hours? Like we need to eat something every couple of hours?
Well, I kind of remember is when our ultra processed food was ramping up. And, when we went through this low fat craze, that fat, it was bad, all fat. If we found out some kind of fat was not great for health, then maybe all fat, we lumped it all into the same category. And so then we started stripping the fat out of food. And then when you take the natural fat out of foods, then we add more sugar in because it doesn't taste good. And then so take the fat out, put sugar in. And then when you're just eating sugar without a lot of protein or fat, then your body processes it quicker, goes through it more quickly, and then you do get hungry.
Yes, you feel those dips. You
have
a sugar spike, an insulin spike, and then you're dipping.
That's right, you're dipping, and so you're constantly triggering those hunger signals in your brain, and then I think I don't know, 80s, we had all this snack food industry just skyrocketed.
Loaded. Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's interesting. I've been to Italy a couple of times. It's one of my favorite places. And the last time we went with our best friends. So it was my husband and I, and my best friend and her husband. And we went to the beach one day. And as typical Americans, we're like, ooh, what are we going to bring with us? But, we didn't have a cooler. We had flown to Italy. So it's not like we had a cooler or anything like that. So we just kind of went with it. We're like, well, we'll just show up and see what we do. But all of us were thinking, well, when will we eat?
Yeah.
What if we have something to drink? How will we possibly enjoy the beach without a snack?
Right.
And it was so apparent when we get to the beach. And first of all, everyone looks healthy and fit and they're running around. But the biggest thing we noticed is not a single Italian family had any food. They did not have coolers full of beer and soda and wine and whatever. They didn't have snack bags or potato chip. They didn't have anything. They had a towel and probably not even sunscreen, probably baby oil. That's it. And they're playing and they're running. And I remember thinking, what are they going to eat? This is so, it blew my mind. Now, if the families were there for a long time, and we were there for several hours, when the families hit around lunchtime, they would all pick up their things and go to the local little deli or restaurants that were on the beach strip, sit down, have a meal together, and then come back out and go back to the beach. What a difference.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's and it's cool that you picked up on that the difference. Yeah. Yeah, definitely snacking is an American pastime.
Yeah. And we feel like we have to have it at all the little functions and all the little things to enhance whatever we're doing when you're at the beach, when you're with a friend.
Yeah. Or somebody's coming over.
Yeah.
You have
you got to pull out the snacks. right?
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that can be a first step.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a first step. Eat enough protein, vegetables, healthy fat. To make me feel full and satisfied. That I know in my brain I'm going to make it that 4 hours or whatever to the next meal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think one more area where we can tend to get confused by the messages in media or in exercise books or in dieting books is that we need to have a meal before we exercise,
Right.
or we need to eat right after.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there are, like you had said, there are metabolic situations in some people.
Mm-hmm.
There might
Yeah,
be.
you got to keep, if you have had diabetes, you got to keep track of your blood sugar or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I remember learning about like Gatorade and the electrolytes. I mean, never mind that there's sugar in it, but you don't really need an electrolyte drink unless you've been exercising and sweating hard for like an hour.
Yeah.
How many of us are exercising hard for a straight hour and we are just drenched and we are just sweating and we are losing all those electrolytes? If you're not, you don't need Gatorade. You need water. Water, right? So that got me thinking, like, well, what else do I not need? And
Right.
again, this ties into listening to your body. If I do a hard workout and I'm feeling a little shaky, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I should eat something. But most of the time, I can go for a walk or do my workout without having eaten anything before, and I don't need to eat right after.
Right.
I can wait till my next meal.
Right.
And I do just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because our bodies have systems in place to manage our blood sugar, sodium, potassium, all those things.
Yes.
When we're eating, when we're not eating. So
Isn't that fascinating? Mm-hmm. I mean, say that again, because I don't think people realize.
Yes. So I think I said our bodies have systems in place to manage our blood sugar and our sodium and our potassium, our electrolytes, all the things when we're eating and when we're not eating.
Yeah.
Right. So and it's a good thing that we don't have to constantly eat. And it's a good thing that we don't have to eat a lot of food. It is a good thing, especially now when food prices are like going through the roof. So isn't it great that we don't need a ton of food to sustain our health? Now, we need healthy food. We need real food. We need whole food. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we need. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that just more of that holistic thought that our bodies are actually created to do this. It knows how to tap into what it needs. And if we listen and start to pay attention, but like you said, the first step might be cutting out some snacks. If you're used to snacking 2 or 3 times a day, start taking out one of those snacks, right? And then see what it's like to take out snacks.
Right. Just see what it feels like. And then if you feel hungry, if you take out a snack and you feel hungry, then the next question in my mind would be, okay, what do I do? How do I need to eat that previous meal? How do I need to change that previous meal? What do I need to do differently? And it may not mean add more calories.
Right.
Yeah. What do I need to do differently to help me feel full and satisfied to sustain me till the next meal?
Yeah. What kind of foods make me feel full and satisfied?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And so, what would you say would be the average number of hours in general that we should be able to go if we've eaten a nice, solid, healthy, full meal?
Yeah. Well, I think 5 hours. You should be able to go 5 hours without eating, and not feel, ravenous. Now, I will say I have used the word food emergency before, and that's when we wait too long. I think, to eat, and then we want to eat the fridge.
Right. Yes. Then that becomes, we're no longer thinking with our frontal cortex. Right. We're thinking with our stomach, and we kind of lose ability to choose well and to eat. So that's a great point, to not get to that point where you're going to become, it becomes a food emergency.
Right. Exactly. On a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is ravenous and 10 is Thanksgiving Day stuffed. I want to
Mm.
listen to my body and start eating when I'm about a 3, and then stop when I'm 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I got to push that 7 closer to the 8. But and the way I push it is with vegetables, but because I like to get
That
a little,
feeling.
the feeling of fullness with those vegetables. But anyway, I know that that's going to be coming down the pike here.
Good.
There was another point that I wanted to make. 0 to 10. I was talking about that. And it's a great exercise, Rachel, and you've done this, and to go through a meal and really rate your hunger and your fullness.
Yeah. And take the time, like time it,
In time,
know,
yeah.
and the minute I started eating, and if I kind of can put my fork down between every bite or so and just kind of breathe through it, how long does it take to where I start to feel those hunger or those satiety cues? And for me, my body does a physical, I do this, and it's like I started to notice it. I thought, oh my gosh, my body's literally telling me, like, and I think it's maybe because my stomach's pressing up on my diaphragm. I don't know. That's my theory. That's my theory anyway. But I recognize that feeling of, ooh, I need to be slowing down. So taking it, maybe this week you experiment with one meal and eat it slowly over 20 minutes. Can you stretch it out to 20 or 30 minutes? What happens during that time? And when do you notice some cues coming in?
Right. Great. That's great. All right. Well, we're going to talk more about this eat less concept, and it's going to be less scary, I think, as we unpack in a little bit more. But this has been a great conversation.
Yes.
And now we're coming to what's for dinner. And I had my lunch before this, so my dinner is going to be around 5:30. I know I'll be hungry for it, but that's okay.
What's for dinner for you?
What's for dinner? Well, we had people over last night. So my husband made the delicious potato salad. So we have that nice resistant starch that we've talked about.
Yes.
And there's leftovers from that. And he made the mayo and used olive oil with that. But I wish you could have seen this beautiful bowl of vegetables and then the potato. It was great.
I bet.
So it's got red peppers. It has celery. He likes to use dill pickles, and sometimes we use the fermented pickles in there. And of course, it's got red onion, and then he puts just the dill in there.
Yeah.
And parsley and olives, and it's just loaded with yumminess. So there's that. And then he did. We barbecued some chicken. Now, I'm not crazy about leftover chicken. I think something happens in that reheating process that I'm not crazy about. We can talk. That's an interesting topic for another.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's put a pin in that one for sure.
Yeah, right. But then, Rachel, aren't you so proud of me?
I am so proud of you.
I did this. I have the roasted soy as my protein in my salad that I'm going to feed. I'm feeding. I did it all. I did prep the vegetables. I have it in my super fridge. I'm so proud of myself. I was like, I can do this.
Yes.
So I have green cabbage, purple cabbage. I've got celery. I've got the orange is the carrot. And then I have my separate greens that are in a separate container. But I've got all those. I've got purple cauliflower. So I've got all those things that stay crunchy.
Yes.
Together. And then I'm feeding the greens.
You're feeding it to the greens, and then you can eat off of that, and then you can love it.
And I have my roasted tofu for my protein because I'm not going to eat that congealed chicken. Sorry, honey.
Right here. Well, I saw what you made, and it was beautiful, and you put a little Parmesan on there. And
I did.
What other spices did you use?
I used red pepper, maybe a little bit too much, but cayenne, and then I used the turmeric, and I used salt, pepper, garlic. So
perfect.
Yeah, and I did the shake.
It's so quick, isn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, we did a live cooking show with the CHOW, the Culinary Health with Oregon Weight and Wellness, on the live stream on Friday in the Oregon Weight and Wellness Facebook page, right?
Right. It's also on yours, right?
And it's on mine as well, my Whole Life Hub. So
Yeah.
get online, find us there, and you can watch the archived video of us cooking. We made a salad, tahini dressing, and baked tofu.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
talked about tips and tricks and
Yeah.
different tools
Yeah.
of culinary, of cooking, of getting in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rachel made it just look, she did a lot of simple things
Yes.
and simple tips. And so
Yeah.
it was really good. So,
It was great.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right,
All right.
everybody.
all right. We'll see it. Did you tell us what you're having for dinner?
Oh, what I'm having for dinner. So that salad that we made on Friday, of course, I
Mhm.
still have the base salad. We're going to add
Yeah.
to that. So we probably eat salad 4 to 5 nights a week. I mean,
Oh,
almost every day.
Every day.
It's always kind of filling in the gaps of whatever we're eating.
Because, makes you feel
Yeah.
full and satisfied, keeps you sustained between meals. Yeah.
It does. And in fact, so my husband made a pasta sauce last night, a veggie pasta sauce, and we used those garbanzo bean noodles. But I like a little bit, but I've just taught myself to kind of steer away from as much noodles. So I don't, even if they're the high protein ones, I don't prefer it. I'd rather have more veggie and stuff. But what I think I'm going to do, and I will do this often, especially with what you just said, Dr. Gilbert, of having greens on the side, is when I have chopped and prepared greens without really much of any other veggie in it, I can use that as the base of my plate or bowl for anything else I'm eating. So with my pasta, I will take a handful of those greens, toss it on the plate, pour the pasta sauce and all the veggies, and then, tonight it'll be microwaved because it's reheated from leftovers from last night. And the sauce and the steam and the heat kind of gently wilts and cooks up the greens.
Right.
Now I have the whole base of this these greens at the bottom of my bowl that just kind of get mixed in. You don't even know they're there.
That's wonderful. Right. Yeah. And actually, you might get a little more nutrient density when they're wilted like that.
Right. That's right. Yes. And that fullness, that satiety, right? Some extra fiber in there.
Right.
But yeah, that's interesting. That point of when greens are raw and fresh, there's a different nutritional kind of profile as compared to gently steamed vegetable. It changes them. So some are, they're all beneficial, but sometimes there's a little different that you get. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks, Rachel. This has been a great conversation. And we'll pick it up again.
Perfect. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.